Hello everyone and welcome to today's Instagram Live, which is about how your partner can share the load during pregnancy. So I'm sure that you have heard about how your partner can help support you during your labour, but how can they support you during your pregnancy? So I've invited Jen Crawford, doula, to join me to chat about this today. Hi Jen.
Hey, how are you, Lisa?
I'm good,
So
thanks. How are you?
Oh, good. Oh, good. Loving the sunshine.
I know, how lucky are we right now?
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. I was actually just chatting to some of the women from my pregnancy yoga, and I was saying, I hope you're able to enjoy it because, sometimes at different stages of pregnancy, we can't necessarily enjoy the good weather, but there
Yes,
seems to be a nice balance at the moment of cool breezes and sunshine, so they're able to get out and walk around. So it's good.
I know. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And I'm really looking forward to this chat today,
Thank
focusing in
you.
on partners. I think it's such a great topic and it's one that's not spoken about enough.
I don't think so, because I was just introducing, the concept of it there, that we have most likely heard of the partner being prepped for birth and how they can best support you, or even, more and more, which is welcome, the conversation about planning for your postpartum and what's
Yeah.
expected there in that role. And that's all welcome conversations and welcome support. But I think it's still very much not spoken about how they can support during pregnancy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And also just I think the focus moving to partners a bit more as well, because I know you're the same supporting partners for years and years, that they often feel like kind of an afterthought,
Mm.
And it's so important for them to realize that this is their baby too and their experience and that they can take an active role in every
Mm.
stage, and
Mm.
rather than kind of being like, oh well, I'll just kind of step back and let you do you, you know?
Yeah. I so often hear this. So, for
Mm.
example, you hear it with dads, maybe first time round, who
Yeah,
say, "Oh, I'll just do whatever I'm told. Just tell me
yeah,
what to do, and I'll do it." And that's coming from the best of intentions. In other words, like, give me the list, and I will follow it to a T. I
yes,
will do the best that I can. And then there's maybe the second or third time parents who are going, "I don't want to be the same as I was last time. I
yes.
was maybe felt pushed to the side. I felt useless. I felt disempowered. I didn't know what to do." And then
Mm.
that's often when couples do seek out the support of a doula. And, as doulas, we offer support through information, physical support, emotional support, but we're providing that support to them as a couple, aren't we? So that they're both supported in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important that they work together as a team. And like my main thing is that they do all the classes, the antenatal classes or the sessions with their doula together, that
Mm.
they understand the process of labor and birth, the early warning signs of labor and
Yeah.
what you could be doing at home, what it looks like when you go to the hospital or your home birth midwife comes and
Mm.
like what their role is. So really understanding, okay, when this is happening, what can I do or what, would be helpful in that situation. But also, I think partners are told a lot of the time, like, know the birth plan or the birth preferences and advocate fiercely. Absolutely do.
Mm.
But what's so important is having those discussions on why those things are on the birth preference, and are you happy with that? Have you had those discussions, and do you understand like the pros and cons or
Yeah.
risks and benefits of everything, or what the
Mm.
line in the sand is, because they're going to be that person that has to be the voice. And if they're just kind of following instructions or being like, oh well, it's on the
Mm.
birth plan, they're not going to be able to do that role as
Yeah.
clearly.
They won't have the confidence in it because
Yeah.
it's almost like they're reading from a script rather
Yes.
than inner knowing and knowledge about it. And I
Yes.
think that, for me, I think in all of my years experiencing couples and supporting couples, whether that's actually being physically in the birth room with them or
Mm.
having support them through antenatal classes and chatting afterwards, it's the change in the dad or the partner when you see them before and after, and they're like, I did that, you
Yeah.
know, where they were able to confidently support. So either be that physical hands-on person or be
Yeah.
that advocate for their partner and their baby, which is so important.
Yes.
So I think that it all starts in pregnancy, doesn't it? And
Absolutely.
realistically looking at the load, and I mentioned in the post about the mental load, there is a huge mental load, and for anyone who's pregnant right now, I don't need to explain that to them. You're just constantly thinking about, what am I eating? Have I drank enough? Did the baby move
Mhm.
today? Did I move enough today? So there's a list that we're constantly going through.
Mm.
And oftentimes then we hear the narrative, oh, he gets off so lightly, or the partner gets off so lightly, I have to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And I think that's where those honest conversations can start about, what are your expectations of your partner and it does
Mhm.
start with pregnancy. So how can they support you with your changing body during pregnancy, with that
Yeah.
mental load?
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of life coaching now, and sometimes that's couples,
Mm,
in pregnancy. And one way that I kind of explain it to partners is if they can become the household manager. And sometimes that kind of like clicks something in them. So I'm like, you just need to become the manager of the household. So you need to field the calls, organize the visitors at certain times, make sure that there's food in the house, make sure the dog is walked, all those things, and try and take that mental load off of things that you know how to do
mm,
already. So sometimes that's an easy way for partners to say, okay, I know how to do all that. I know that I'm not stepping into the unknown. And then
mm.
that kind of frees the birthing parent or the mother up to, look after herself, grow a human being,
Please
prepare
spend
for
time.
the exit of that human being from her body. So sometimes that just helps kind of take that load off.
Mm, mm.
And even just understanding that, like, actually, it's up to them to field those visitors and those calls, or organize the meal train, or
Yeah.
you know, take ownership of certain things. So I love when dads or partners learn baby wearing in
Yeah.
pregnancy. And then that can be their thing with the baby.
Mm,
So baby's fed and changed, and then they take their top off, put baby just in the nappy, and then they
mm.
have skin to skin, baby in the swing, and they can still potter around and baby super happy. And that's like their little bonding time.
I think
Um,
what a wonderful,
yeah,
empowering start to parenthood.
it's
And that's why
lovely.
it does break my heart, Jen, when, partners almost do get pushed to the side because they miss out on
Mm,
these opportunities and maybe they're not even aware of it. And I think that's why these conversations are important, because this is your child. This is the start
absolutely.
of your parenthood, but also like a whole new start to your relationship with your partner,
Yeah.
whether it's your first or your fourth child, because it changes the whole time. So it's new relationships, it's new beginnings, and it really is
Mm.
an opportunity for you within that to form those bonds and connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, Lisa, I love those little small micro habits and little daily
Mm,
check-ins. And I think that's so important when you're moving through pregnancy and there's changes in your relationship.
mm,
There's this change on the horizon. Um, and like being able to do that little check-in at the end of every day. How are you doing? How am I
mm,
doing? What's going well? What things do we need to tweak? Are there fears coming up that we might need to work through? Whatever it is. So it's easier to do that on a daily basis.
yeah.
And if you build that habit in pregnancy, then that becomes a natural part of your day. So when baby is here and life is really busy, it's very easy to sit in bed, or when you're sitting down having dinner or whatever, to do that little check in, and it just
Mm,
feels natural.
mm,
Rather than leaving it for this big crisis where everybody is pulling their hair out and like, I'm drowning in this,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can kind of catch the little things
Yeah.
early. Or Brené Brown talks about the battery percentage, like I'm on 55% today. What are you on? You're on
Yeah.
70%. Great, so you can take more of the load today than I can.
Yeah.
And then there'll be other days where I have a
Mm,
higher battery percentage than my partner. So
mm,
just having those clear communication and being
mm.
able to talk about how they're feeling.
And having
Mm,
exactly that clear communication, it's a practice, it's a skill, we do have to
absolutely.
practice it.
Yeah.
And at times, sometimes maybe you already have children and time is, short.
Yeah.
So I think as well as practicing the clear communication is practicing the active listening, isn't it? And not
Mm,
jumping to the defense. So if one person is saying they're feeling incredibly tired or incredibly stretched, that you're not feeling like it's an attack on you, that you're able to actually listen. And I
Yeah,
know that's easier said than done. So I
I
know that
know.
comes with practice. And as you said, practicing now in the day to day when things aren't as kind of high pressure as they're going to be once the baby arrives
Yes.
is really important.
Yeah,
And
and
then,
trying to avoid that like one-upmanship of
yeah,
like, I'm more tired than you are because of this. And they're like, well,
yeah.
no, I'm so stressed with this thing and I'm doing that. And you're trying to like
Mm,
battle it
mm,
out rather than, like you say, that active listening of like,
mm,
okay, this is what you're going through. This is what I'm going through. What can we do together to
yeah,
make this work? You know?
mm,
Because yeah, it's probably the most emotional time a couple will ever go through, you
yeah,
know, that journey of pregnancy, birth, and early parenthood, because they're rediscovering themselves as well,
mm,
parts of
mm,
them that were dormant before,
mm,
and they're understanding their new roles and what life is going to look like now. And you know, it's a huge, huge change. And for me, it all comes back to that clear communication and that
mm,
teamwork, you know,
mm,
as
mm.
best as possible.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
being compassionate with each other, that, we're all human at the end of the day as well. So being compassionate with each other, if somebody is having a particularly hard day, just knowing how to support
Yeah.
them with that. And it does generally come back to what seems like the simple things. And I do find myself saying, it's the little things, it's the simple things, but actually they're the big things. They're the things that
Oh,
make a difference. So like,
absolutely.
has this person actually gotten food or water today? And I'm not
Yeah.
joking. Like that's how busy it can
No.
be. If they're really nauseous
Hmm.
with pregnancy nausea, like find out. Don't leave it up to the mother or pregnant person to tell you what she needs either. Like
Yeah.
there's an overwhelm of information now, but you can literally simply Google it, or you can ask your doula, you know, there's really bad nausea at the moment. What can I do to help? And then have the snacks in, have the ginger tea, have the aromatherapy oils, whatever it is, but inform yourself and how
Yeah.
empowering that is to be able to provide that comfort to your partner.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
also what I meant by the physical support because, the body is changing hugely. At some stages during pregnancy, it feels like day to day it's changing hugely. And
Yes.
there's a lot of comfort that you can provide, physically as well.
Of course, absolutely. And there's nothing like that physical touch, is there, or a foot rub or anything? But
Yeah.
you know, like on this topic, Lisa, that I am loving at the moment. There's a lot more groups for dads coming out. You know, have you noticed that?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of like antenatal classes
Mm,
specifically for dads, or like men's sheds and things like that for men to
mm,
talk. And I know there's same-sex partners as well, but it's nearly like kind of there's different supports, you know.
yeah.
But when we're talking about dads specifically, like there is a lot more support there than there used to be.
Mm,
And I think it's like taking that stigma away and
yeah.
letting dads know like it's okay to reach out and do
Yeah.
these things. And actually, like it's like we said, it's your baby and it's your journey, and like you should be allowed to go and take this time for yourself the way mothers will go to like a pregnancy
Mm,
yoga class or
mm,
whatever it is. So like taking that time to enjoy being pregnant and
yeah.
the anticipation and excitement for like having a baby, and getting tips from people maybe who are further down the road, you know, because
Mm,
often when people are pregnant, everyone will go, oh, how is she, and how's the baby, and like when's the baby due, and all this. And it's all the mother
mm.
and the baby, the mother and the baby, rightly, you know, we we
Yeah.
do a
Yeah.
whole lot of the work. But often dads don't really get a look in. So it's
Yeah.
lovely for people to be able to say, and how are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, are you excited? Are you feeling fierce? Do you have any
Mm,
questions about things coming up? And often they'll kind of sheepishly be like, oh, well, you know,
mm,
I was a bit worried about this, or, you know, is this normal, this thing that's been happening or whatever. So
mm,
it's lovely. And that's where doulas are such a
mm,
fantastic support, where they can come in
mm.
and hold that space for the whole family,
Yeah.
you know. And also, if it's not the first baby, I believe it is so important for the dad or partner to debrief their other experiences
Yeah.
as well, because often partners in a birth especially will witness trauma or
Mm.
witness things that they deemed to be
Yes.
traumatic or scary or something they weren't prepared for. Sometimes
Mm.
even just
Mm.
seeing blood, they're like, is something wrong? Do you know?
Mm.
So
Mm.
being able to debrief their own experiences and emotions and feelings is really, really, really important before they step into that next experience.
Exactly. And this is
Yeah.
again comes back to that emotional support for
Yeah.
both people, for both partners. Because if you are emotionally supported yourself, you're better able then to support the
Yeah.
person. And being, sometimes again, if we're talking about the male partners, we all are guilty of this, of suppressing things we don't want to think about. But certainly there's the stigma around men of, don't talk about it, just get up, get on with it kind of a thing, which
Mm.
is changing, thankfully. And I think the
Yeah.
more that we encourage it and support it, the better. But then I don't think they're going to realize that when you step back in, maybe through those hospital doors, or your partner goes into labor, that can
Yeah.
just come right back up, and that is not the
Yeah.
time to be dealing with it. And that was something I
Mm.
did want to touch on today. It was again about that emotional support for both of you, and
Yeah.
to know that it's okay that there might be conversations that you can't turn to each other for, and that
Hmm.
you need to go outside of your relationship, and that's okay, because it
Absolutely.
can be hard to talk about something that you witness or experience happening to the person that you love the most. It can
Yeah.
be really hard to talk to them about it because you don't want to bring that up for them either. Or maybe you don't want
Mm.
to admit how scared you were. So it is important to have additional supports for yourself outside of your team unit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that can come from many different places.
Mm,
Some people just are happy to debrief with a friend or,
yeah,
someone trusted in their family. Sometimes it's the doula where they might say, look, is there any chance we could have a session just one on one or have a phone call or whatever?
mm,
It might be in a dad specific support group or class. Or it might be going to talk therapy or some kind of birth rewind process.
yeah.
But yeah, there's so many options there, and I think really what it is, it's just acknowledging that there
Mm,
are two parents that are walking this journey, and it's taking that ownership for their own journey as well. And I know when we were talking a bit about today, Lisa, you were mentioning like even just little things like being a part of packing the hospital
yeah.
bag and
Yeah.
knowing what's in there and where it is and why it's
Yeah.
there, so that the mom isn't like, get me this thing, and they're like,
Mm,
what, pulling everything out,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so it's just being an active participant in every stage. It doesn't mean that the weight of the world has to fall on the partner either. It's about that teamwork and like,
Yeah.
let's do this job together,
Mm,
and let's talk about this and why this is meant to be in. And I think in general, most parents are kind of coming around to that a lot
mm,
more. And
mm,
definitely I'm seeing like, I kind of started supporting parents about 15 years ago, and I'm seeing
mm,
even in that time there is a big difference in that role that partners play and
yeah.
the support that they are given for them as
Mm,
well. So
mm,
I do think that attitude is changing a little bit more,
mm,
but it's just about that encouragement when
mm,
women are especially in a group like yours, like a yoga class or whatever,
yeah.
and they're like, oh, giving out, and they're like, I feel like I'm taking on the weight of the world here.
Yeah.
Encouraging that, like, okay, so have you actually talked about this to your partner? And like, is there jobs that you could
Mm,
allocate to them? And is there a way that you could say, look, these are all the things that we have to do. What
mm,
things do you want to do and what things will I do or whatever? And have those conversations,
mm. And also, I'm smiling away here to myself because sometimes we have the overeager partner who nearly turns into like a
Yes.
pregnancy and birth coach, and
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
need that energy either.
I know.
Think more teammate than coach.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it is
again,
gorgeous though, isn't it? Like
it's
I
lovely to see
love when I
that.
get a call from a dad and
Yeah.
they're like, it's my job to sort the doula or it's
Mm,
my job to sort the
yeah.
classes or whatever. And I'm like, go
Yeah.
you, like,
I like when you turn up and they've already got their notebook full of questions. I like
yes.
to feel like high-fiving them. You're like,
Yeah.
yes, we've got this. Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. And look, there's loads of dynamics, isn't there, in
yeah.
couples? And like every family unit is unique and different and has
Mm.
their own rhythm, is the way I kind of talk about it. So it's finding what works within your roles and your rhythm in your house, and making sure that you reach out to people, like your
Yeah.
doula or your antenatal educator or your life coach or whoever, and just seek guidance. Because
Mm.
even if this isn't your first baby, it's the first time you're pregnant in this dynamic in your relationship. And also with like subsequent pregnancies after your first, you do have more to unpack,
Yeah.
whether it's positive or negative, because even positive can give us bias. And,
Hmm.
so it's unpacking that whole experience as well and kind of stepping into this new phase again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
likewise, second and third pregnancies can be completely different. So you might have had what you deemed quite easy, comfortable pregnancy, and then the second one isn't the same.
Yeah.
And everything has been flipped on its head. And now you also have a toddler or younger child to look after. So
Yeah.
again, as you say, the dynamics they're constantly changing the relationships. But again, looking at it evolving, looking at it as progressing, looking at it as growing rather than it being a stumbling block for you. So keeping those lines of communication open. So I
Yes.
suppose if we're to review about what we've been chatting about, Jen, like to think about, even informational support, to
Mm.
know that as the partner, as the dad, it is also your responsibility to seek out the information. But if the mother, pregnant person is saying, okay, I've been looking at this option for pain relief, for example.
Yeah.
Well, don't wait for her to go into that more. Say, okay, let's talk about it. Go and find it for yourself, read up on it, and be as informed as you can so that
Yeah.
when it comes time to, this often actually comes up in really practical level when it comes to the epidural. So
Yes.
a mom might be thinking, I don't want one, but I'll know if I need one. And
Yeah.
maybe here's the code word I'm going to use. But before that, I don't need it. And that's
Yeah.
really important because if you have that conversation very clearly sitting at your kitchen table or going for a walk where we don't have the stress of the labor room, and you're very confident in it. And so that when
Yeah.
it does come time to be in labor, you're not kind of, as the partner, looking at her going, oh, I don't know, I think she should have the epidural. You're confident in that decision that you have made already.
Yes, yeah. And having techniques for you as a partner to stay calm
Mm.
and to stay present. So it might be breath work, it might be affirmations, it might be, just saying, right, I'm just going to kind of step back a second now and calm myself in
Yeah.
order to be able to be present. That I
Mm.
think sometimes partners put a lot of pressure on themselves to be perfect, and
Mm.
nobody is perfect, and nothing about birth or parenting will ever be perfect.
Mm.
And it's just about showing up authentically and doing the best you can. But like you said, it all comes from that prep in pregnancy
Mm.
and being a part of every stage of that, whether it's the
Yeah.
education or the practical stuff like choosing
Mm.
the sling or choosing the crib or packing the
Mm.
bag.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
again around physical support, knowing that, the body changes so much. Well, why is it changing so much? What's happening? Like, as you said, we're growing another human or two or more. So, like, know what's happening to your partner's body, know what's happening to your baby, be on with that so that you're aware of what's happening, so that
Mm.
then you can support. And the things like the massage that are safe to do in pregnancy, those
Yeah.
techniques you'll use then in birth and you'll use in postpartum. So maybe when words fail you, this is exactly all that you need. This is it. It's the physical touch and connection. And I'm sure you've seen it just like I've seen it, those magical, beautiful moments in the birth room when all there is that silent communication between the couple and it works like magic to release the oxytocin, that beautiful birth hormone. So it
Yeah.
is definitely worth being in tune with that during pregnancy and practicing those things, especially in the third trimester, I think, as well, to really get that bond and connection.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But look, I mean, like you were saying with summarizing, really what it is, it's that it's a journey that you're both going on together,
Mm.
that you're getting the education, you're getting all the practical stuff together, and you're keeping that clear communication open and leaning on supports that are specific to you, whatever
Mm.
that is,
Yeah.
and there are so many, like there's so many fabulous, fabulous
Mm.
groups and classes now for dads or same-sex partners. So
Mm.
it's seeking them out as best they can, and just enjoying it as well. I
Yeah.
think there's so much of this like to-do list and you know all that. And really like what I tell my clients is the two most important things that you can do is educate yourself so you know how to make informed decisions at every step of the
Mm.
way and have the freezer stocked with meals and everything
Yeah.
else can be sorted. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It can all be
Yeah.
sorted.
Everything has to
But
be sorted
it's
out. Yeah.
yeah, that's like most of the time
Yeah.
parents just room in and you know
Mm.
they're kind of going around in their sweats or their pajamas
Mm.
and you
Mm.
know that's life for the first few weeks and with online
Yeah.
shopping and everything we have everything at our fingertips. So
Yeah, and again, though, Jen, it's the expectations, isn't it?
yeah,
To chat
yeah,
about that beforehand, because someone might have the expectation of that we're going to have all the visitors in the first week to see the baby, and the other person is like, I'm going to be in my sweatpants eating,
yes,
in my bed.
yeah,
So it's again having that. It all comes back to the clear communication and looking at yourselves as a team. And I think if you take nothing else away from this conversation, hopefully that little nugget will help to
yeah,
support people and to start the conversations maybe around the kitchen table this evening about how we can support
yes,
each other. I
absolutely.
will be going deeper into this. I have a free class tomorrow, Thursday evening, and I'll be going deeper into
Lovely.
this how your partner can really support you during your labour as well.
Yes.
Um, but I know you have fabulous doula training coming up. So if somebody's listening to this and going, ooh, I like what they're saying about doulas, would you just tell us
Yeah.
about your birth doula training, please?
Yeah, so the birth doula training is starting next week, actually on Thursday, on the 7th. And yeah, it's like it comes with 3 CPD days. I know you've taken a few of them as well. So I just love all things birth, and I suppose being a doula and an agency owner for a long time, and then weaving in that life and business coaching, I feel like this is a really well-rounded training that gives
Mm.
them everything they need as a doula to start out and run a successful business without burning out, which
Yeah.
I think are two key elements that a lot of trainings lack.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm just loving it. And like doula support is so evidence-based. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure you talk about this all the time, Lisa, but there is so much evidence that doula support improves outcomes mentally,
Mm.
emotionally, and physically for the mother, the partner, and the baby. So I just think like something so small as adding like a doula training to somebody's knowledge base can make such a difference to their practice regardless. Like I've a lot of
Mm.
yoga teachers
Yeah.
and antenatal educators and so many things that really learn those skills of doula support. And sometimes
Mm.
that's not in-person doula support. Sometimes it's virtual and educational and emotional support over the phone.
Yeah.
And I think that's changed a lot since COVID. You know,
I think yeah,
before,
there's
yeah,
an
doula
acceptance
support
for it.
would have been very much only the in-person, which of course is
Mm.
always the gold standard of
Yeah.
care,
Yeah.
that continuity of care with a family through pregnancy, birth, and
Mm.
postpartum. But there's a lot of families now who are doing virtual support with
Mm.
doulas, and I think
Mm.
that works beautifully as well. So I cover that in the training too.
Mm.
And yeah, I just love doulas. I love what you do. I
Yeah.
love what we do. And I just think it makes such a difference. And anybody who's had a birth or parenting experience without a doula, and then the next time has one with a doula, they're like, oh, the
Yeah.
difference, you know? Like I am yet to meet anyone that regrets
Mm.
hiring a doula.
No, no. And I was chatting to someone just this week, and she was saying that because her experience was of having a doula, and she was like, I just wish more people knew that
No.
they could have this support and what it feels like. And I
Yes.
think that can be hard to, it's not tangible for people if they've never experienced it. But I think, again, more mothers and parents speaking to each other about it, it will filter out through. And as we know, doulas are becoming more and more, commonplace, and more people know what that word means. I find I don't have to explain it as often.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And like with my doula training as well, I really want it to be accessible to everyone.
Mm.
And, I'm sure you get messages all the time. I know I
Mm.
do daily, like, oh, I always wanted to be a midwife and I didn't
Mm.
realize like this doula training thing was a thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So mine are virtual and they're all recorded. So
Mm.
if you need to miss a day or, I've lots of people who have little ones with them,
Yeah.
babies and toddlers, and they're taking the
Mm.
training live with their little ones. So I
Yeah.
really want it to be accessible and women to be able to follow their passion and their
Yeah.
purpose because a lot of the time we have to put our lives on hold. you know, to raise a family, or maybe we've put all our efforts into a corporate role that just
Mm,
doesn't light us up.
yeah.
And yeah, my goal for this training is to give people an easy path to follow their purpose and their joy. You
Mm,
know, I love that. My
that's
little
it.
affirmation is choose joy.
Yeah.
So I think this is our one
Beautiful.
beautiful life. Like,
Mm.
you know, do
And
what
I
you
think
can.
this is where we resonate so much, because that is
Mm.
exactly why I've created my online program,
Yes.
because I get it. I
Mm.
was that person, on a third pregnancy. I
Yeah,
didn't have time to scratch, never
I
mind.
know.
But and like that's and I still yet I am the person saying, make sure you make time for
I
yourself.
know.
So I get it. I am both of those people. So it's like, how can we make this easy and enjoyable for
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
accessible for people?
Yeah,
So yeah, between the free workshop and then the 6 week program, it's just all about making it accessible to you so that you
yeah,
can find the support that fits you, that lights you up, that resonates with you, and then brings you joy at the end of it in a really positive experience, whether that's your birth
yeah.
doula training or your birth experience. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What a
Then,
gorgeous chat, Lisa. Wow.
oh,
We
lovely.
covered
I think
so
we're both
much.
glowing after that. Really lovely. Jen, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to
Oh,
share
my
obviously your
pleasure.
details with this live, but if you have anything else you want to share in the comments or anything underneath,
Yeah.
please do so. And if anybody has any questions for Jen or myself, feel free to reach out. As always, the DMs
Always.
are there.
Yeah.
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 Thank you so much,
Amazing.
Jen.
Have a gorgeous day.
You too. Take care. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.